So that is the lineup. Those are the reasons behind it, and I'm sure my new colleagues, would like to say a few words in advance. Laurence.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to thank the Chief Minister for having the confidence to invite me onto the Council of Ministers. Whilst I'm naturally delighted to join the team, I think that that excitement will disappear very quickly, because these are very, very challenging times. It is exactly why I got into politics, is to literally step up to the plate, and I think this is what this is all about. I've been very fortunate to have 2.5 years working in economic development, trying to promote the economic growth, and believe I've contributed very positively in that fashion. Now, I think the focus of being Minister for Infrastructure will be to look at the rebalancing, one of the second priorities of this government. And this department has a serious challenge ahead of it. It's about to take on the public transport, and we are to make savings in the region of about 6 million in this department alone, which is well over half of the whole government savings. So there are challenging times ahead. I do want to thank David Cretney, having worked under him for the last year. He provided me a tremendous amount of support and experience, and I continue to look forward to working with him in a different capacity. But there is a lot of work ahead with regards to this department, and I look forward to working with the team there to take it forward.
Thanks.
I should say snap, really, shouldn't I? I'd like to thank the Chief Minister for having the confidence in me to appoint me to what is the biggest department in government. From a number of employees, it's nearly 2,000. I think it's 38.5% of the budget is health and social care. There's going to be a lot of work. I'm not going to disguise the fact that it's going to be a very hard department to work in, but I will do my best. I'm up for the challenge, and I think that as a politician, when you stand, you should accept what you're given, and do your very best to make things for the better for the people of the Isle of Man. And I will work night and day to see that we can deliver in government a health service and social care that the island can be proud of. And again, I'd like to thank David Anderson, MHK, and Chris, the previous Minister for Social Care, for all their hard work, and I hope I can live up to the standard that they've set.
Chris, do you want to make any comments?
I leave social care with some sadness. I've thoroughly enjoyed the last 2.5 years in the department. We've tried to do an awful lot of important work, and I hand over to Howard and know that it's safe hands. Facing us now is a huge challenge, and I approach that with considerable relish. I came into politics because I wanted to play my part in ensuring that this administration could, at its end, hold its head up and say, we've done the right thing for the future of the Isle of Man. And the role that the Chief Minister has invited me to take up is extremely challenging. I'm sure I have a considerable number of difficult days, but I believe that this administration is now going in the right direction, has done a lot of good work, but there's a lot more ahead, and I look forward to engaging in it.
Thanks. So, any questions?
Can you just ask if the three members who went, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Cretney and Mr. Crugene, went willingly? Basically, did they agree, did they want to step down? Were they basically in the right time for them to leave?
Yes, I want to make it very clear that no one has been sacked from the government. This is an evolutionary period. I think all the members involved were aware of the changes which are in the pipeline, and were willing to accept the changes. Clearly there will be a need to find jobs for them in government. They're not retiring completely, they're just standing down as ministers, possibly for the time being. And we will, over the next week or two, be deciding on what the departmental membership is of the departments, and I'm sure those three gentlemen will be included in those considerations.
Mr. Cretney is not standing again in 2016, he said that
I understand Mr. Cretney is now going to announce his retirement in 2016, yes.
Can you explain to me why Mr. Cregeen isn't just seeing his time out? Why make this sort of stopgap or gap arrangement? Have you fallen out with him? Is he fallen out?
No, there's no need to try and make a crisis out of it. This is a very sensible transition decision. The new department comes in on the 1st of April. There's a chance now for us to ease the new ministers into their roles, ease the transition, the breakup of DCCL, and this is deemed to be what we think is the easiest way to do it. But Mr. Cregeen has done a good job in DCCL and will be found a new job in government in due course.
Would you say the new appointment signal a slight shift in direction? I think Chris and Howard are perhaps more supportive of corporatisation, maybe even privatisation than some of your predecessors. Is there a slight shift there in direction?
The changes which are brought in are not necessarily related to any policy change. I think the direction of travel is likely to be much the same as we've enjoyed for the first 2.5 years. But clearly there will have to be a review of one or two areas, and we have a new set of eyes in all three areas really to oversee this. But I'm not expecting any drawing back from the commitment to change. Corporatisation, privatisation and more efficient government is still very much under consideration for all the departments. So I don't think there'll be much change there. But I would expect a speeding up of a number of the reviews which are taking place.
Just as far as the Cabinet Office is concerned and the Minister for Policy and Reform, where do they actually lie in the hierarchy of things? Who's in charge of the Cabinet Office? And the Minister for Policy and Reform, is he a sort of floating minister or what?
The role of this minister will evolve in due course. At the moment, it is very much to oversee the Cabinet Office, to develop relationships with all the other ministers and all of the other departments to ensure the swift passage of the scope of government reforms. As I say, there are 200 recommendations that we have to put in place. It will be now to start to step back and look at some of the longer term strategies that are facing government. The issue we're all engaged with very much at the moment, obviously, is rebalancing. But as I've said on a number of occasions, my real concern isn't for the short term, it's for the long term, which is how do we deal with the demographic challenge facing the island in terms of an ageing population, of how do we sustain the health service into the future, how do we deal with pensions, social welfare generally. There are some huge issues there which transcend all the short-term rebalancing considerations, and the new policy and strategies that we develop for government will come through this role.
No, I mean, if I may add to that, I see the creation of this Cabinet Office and this Minister for Policy and Reform as a support for the other departments. So as when you are bringing forward new policy, new strategy, that this will have sustainability at its forefront. So as when we're making a decision, it's not in isolation, and we are to get away from the silo mentality. And this is where we now have a minister to support that for all the other departments as I see it going forward.
Howard, you've had 3 budget speeches where you've been quite critical of government. So were you surprised, pleased to be appointed a minister, and can we expect a different tone to your budget speech next year?
Right, well, my budget speech next year will be about the achievements of the department I'm now in charge of. Yes, all my life has been about getting value for money and building up business, so I will try and take that into my new departments where we try and get as much efficiencies as possible, so my message won't change there. I'll be working hard. You know, the government isn't a blank cheque. We've got to live within our means. We've lost, I don't want to sound like a record from the Chief Minister, we have lost 200 million of our income. It's a low taxation economy, and therefore we've got to make sure that every pound we spend, we get absolutely maximum return for. And that's something I'm going to go throughout the entire department that I'm now responsible for, to make sure that value for money is being achieved. And if I find any waste, cut it out and try and, as a result of that, improve the service.
Is it a risk? I mean, with the Department of Health and Social Care, I think it's going to have the biggest budget. So is it a risk putting somebody in with no ministerial experience to manage that?
I've already done that. Mr. Robertshaw came in with no departmental experience, let alone ministerial experience, to take over social care 2.5 years ago. Mr. Quayle has been very active in a number of departments of government, and I think has shown a keen interest in health in particular. I believe he will perform the job well. A lot of the groundwork has already been prepared on the health service side of things. We've done a lot of work over the last 7 or 8 months to put new structures in place. And as I say, in social care in particular, Social Security itself now leaves that department to go to Treasury. So that element of it is much smaller than it's been in the past. So I don't see that this as being a problem at all. I think it will re-energise some elements of that new department, and we will work together as a team. And this is particularly what I'm hoping to mould out of the new Council of Ministers, is a genuine team where ministers are working for each other, that we will continue the work to break down silos between departments, which has been a major handicap in the past. And I think Mr. Quayle will certainly lead on health and social care, but he will have the support of all his colleagues around this table at the same time.
Yeah. Could I also come in to answer that? I have just finished being chairman of the Manx Electricity Authority, which, with all due respect to the departments of DEFRA and Home Affairs, I think I had more people working for me then, a bigger budget, and a £404 million debt, and a business plan to sort out the restructuring and work towards the merger. So whilst, yes, I'm a new minister coming into a big department, I've already had the equivalent of a small department in my time as chairman of the MEA. Before that, I was chairman of planning, where I introduced more permitted development for the public. I saved £500,000 a year on the cost of the division of planning and building control. So I like to think that I haven't been given the easy jobs by the Chief Minister in the past. He's given me planning and the MEA to sort out. So I would say that that's been good experience in preparing me for what is arguably a major department to run.
Mr. Skelly, you had differences with the council ministers, particularly over the health issue. Now you're in the team, you know? Is that going to cause you problems that you... And also, Mr. Quayle, you now cannot speak out as you have done before. It is collective responsibility at the end of the day. Are you comfortable with these positions, and how are you going to be able to deal with them?
Yes, I am, and I think those issues that were raised have now come forward in the fullness of time with regards to the restructuring of government. You've seen with the proposals with regards to the running of the hospital. I feel very comfortable with that, and I think in politics you do have differences. There's no doubt about that. Whether you're sitting around this table, or whether you're sitting in the Keys or in Tynwald, those are to be resolved and to try and work on. For me, as I said before, I think with regards to that issue, I've always said let's draw a line under it, let's move forward, and I think that's the key point here. We have some very significant issues. The demographic, and we just talk about health and social care, the demographic of that is extremely difficult. If we look further out there, how do we put policies in place that will be sustainable? And I think that's what this is all about, this restructuring. And once more, I would suggest that this policy reform driven by the centre will be crucial to the success of this Council of Ministers and this administration.
Mr. Quayle?
Yes, I'm more than happy to take collective responsibility. I think if you want to influence the way the island is going, you've got to work within and have an input into what's being discussed behind the scenes to drive policy. And I look forward to taking part in that. The changes that are going to be made in my new department, I have been critical of areas, and I will be looking to improve the areas where I've criticised. So those have been my key areas, along with public sector pensions, and again I'll be looking to work on that too. So I see this as a continuation of what I wish to achieve.
You want to say something?
Yes, I would. In recent weeks and months, the people of the Isle of Man have heard a great deal about the Treasury Minister moving towards a rebalancing situation. We've also heard from the Economics Minister that there's a clear future on Vision 2020. What the administration yet has not achieved is clarity and understanding as to how in the future the Isle of Man is going to truly look after its vulnerable. And that's one of the key challenges that we face. And we've learnt in recent years that that has to be something which can only be accomplished by all the departments working together. So I think part of this process will be examining just exactly how we identify the vulnerable and how we deliver important services to them. And I think that I believe passionately that that's something that we've got to achieve significant progress on in its new form. So you will have clarity in all three areas: vulnerability, the growth of the economy, and balancing the budget.
Can I just add one point about collective responsibility? I just want to make it very clear that because a member becomes a minister and a member of the Council of Ministers does not mean that they lose their voice. The Council of Ministers has very robust debate about all policy issues that come forward from whatever source, whatever department, and that will continue. The only thing that changes is that once a decision around this table has been taken, then ministers are bound by collective responsibility unless there are extenuating circumstances which excludes them from that. So our new colleagues will be able to argue their points every bit as robustly as they have in the past, but it will be in the confines of this chamber rather than in the Tynwald chamber. So things will not change, their voices will still be heard, and we will obviously be listening to them.
Why didn't you feel it necessary to change any of the other ministerial roles?
Because I want to try and maintain or strike a balance between continuity, to maintain that level of experience in the Council of Ministers, and to bring in some fresh faces to extend continuity perhaps at the other end of the cycle, which is into the next House. The ministers who've retained their portfolios have overall, I think, done a good job in taking us forward, and we need their continuity, I think, to help us so we don't destabilise Council completely. So I think the balance between old and new is about right, and it will inject new energy into the Council and some fresh ideas, I think, alongside the tried and tested ministers.
Do you think are those departments that weren't changed the ones that were maybe giving you less of a headache? I mean, the ones that have been changed, obviously, health, we all obviously had all the issues with the health department at the end of last year. Are these the ones that really stuck out as sort of the problem areas that you wanted to tackle?
These are two areas which need, whichever minister is in charge, these areas will both need some close attention over the next couple of years. We are in the process of restructuring health. There's some major changes coming in there. Health is absolutely central to protecting the vulnerable and looking after the welfare of our people, and obviously social care alongside that. And infrastructure has some major changes to make in the time ahead. So these will probably be the two departments above all which will be the focus of attention for the next couple of years. I don't have too much trouble for my Treasury Minister. He usually behaves himself. But as I say, the whole thing, this isn't to single out any minister or member at all. It is just a period of renewal now for Council to take us forward to the end of this term.
There's no doubt, I would say, maybe, I don't know if you're going to agree with me, but the next Chief Minister is in this room today, and I'm not meaning the one that's going to follow you. Would you say that's what you're looking at doing here today, getting this talent ready for the next general election?
At the moment, I am restructuring government to face the challenges that the Isle of Man has today, and I'm not prepared to play silly speculation with media to decide on who's going to be the next Chief Minister.